Hello everybody and welcome to another K2 webinar. Today will be the first in a series of introductory webinars that we have where we will hopefully get some of our new users either based on our software up to speed with the products we have. To start off, my name's Kyron Murphy. I work in the technical sales here. Today I will be joined by a colleague of mine, Roman Weil. Roman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi everyone. Glad you're here, and I hope we can get some information, like really useful information for you. And yeah, I'm also working as Karen in the technical department. I will be showing you the K2 base software and also about our website, some stuff. But yeah, let's get back to Karen. He will start with everything else.
Thanks very much, Roman. So before we get started, just some brief introduction. If you haven't used Zoom before, we have a number of features that allow you to interact with us. We would really like that today. Questions are great. So first of all, you could put your hand up. There's a function there. The idea of this is we will hopefully sort of make a slight pause in our chat, and we'll get you to turn on your microphone, or sorry, we will turn on the microphone. You'll be able to ask either myself or Roman directly. The other option is a Q&A section. So you'll notice there's a chat and a Q&A button down the bottom. Please use the Q&A section. This way we can track our the questions and get back to you a little bit prompter than the chat function. But something else we have today is a poll, just to get an idea of who will be watching, and we can then look at maybe some of the better information to give. So I'm just going to launch that now. I think the first question we have will be how regularly or do you regularly use K2 base? So we'll leave this open for a little while, maybe, you know, like once or twice a month. Reoccurring users is probably like a better term for this. But this will also give us a bit of time to let some people come in if we have any stragglers. Okay, so it was about 50-50 on this one. So that was the first question.
Shall we go to the next one, Karen?
I think that is the plan.
All right. Do you want me to continue with the next one?
Yeah. Are you able to? Oh.
1 second. This is the same one. We'll change to the second question up here. Have you ever used K2 mounting systems? Let's start.
You're all over it, Roman. Expert. I think we've got enough results there. So.
All right.
About 30%. Yeah, about 30% new customers and new users, and 2/3 existing.
All right, and then we got one more, don't we?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, let's do the third one. Let's start. Which K2 mounting systems do you use? You can use more than one. That's a multiple choice.
So SingleRail and SolidRail, just what we expected with a tile roof.
SingleRail, SolidRail, that's perfect for today.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for everyone that participated in that. That was just a quick little thing. I'll now just go through a few topics that we'll be talking about today. So this introduction that we've just had, we'll then be talking of the two rail systems. So we have the SingleRail and SolidRail, and we'll go through then some roof hooks. And following that, Roman will show you how to find all this information online, because there's a lot of information out there, and sometimes it can be a little tricky to find. So he'll run through our website and then also give us a demonstration on the base software. We'll then have a bit of time for questions. So if something you thought of during the webinar, you didn't have time to ask, you can stay around and we'll hopefully answer it for you then. So first thing, rails. We have two families in our system called the SingleRail and the SolidRail. And most of our hooks, or all our hooks are for that. There's one main difference between the two, and that is the fixing location. So you can see here, this is on the channel on the side, and here, this is on the bottom. We'll have a bit of a closer look at that now. So this is just the two rail profiles. So here we have the SolidRail, and we have, you notice the channel up the top. This is this what we would call the standard K2 channel. This is suits our K2 slot nuts and our 1 mid 1 ends. And the channel at the top is exactly the same as that for the SingleRail. So the difference though is the positioning of the fasteners. So for the SingleRail, we have that on the side, and the SolidRail, we have that on the bottom. And so this has, or the difference between this has two sort of meanings for your project. The SolidRail with it on the bottom is slightly easier to extrude. The geometry is a little simpler, so it's a little bit cheaper product. The disadvantage, however, is that the fixation is from underneath. And so I'll show this a bit later, but when we're fixing it, we have to work under, and the installation time takes a little bit longer. So if your project is in, or your project has quite high labor costs, this product might not be as suitable as the SingleRail. SingleRail, contrary to the SolidRail, is a little bit more complex geometry, slightly more material, and so it's a little bit more expensive. The advantage, however, is that you can fix from the side, and so installation is a lot quicker. And if the project, if the majority of your cost is in installation, then this would be a much better product. So we have our two rails, but then how do we get them on the roof? One of many, many different roof hooks. So you can see my little pile over here. We'll go through most of them today. Our hooks can be broken up into two main categories, and they are for the rails. So the SingleRails have single hooks and the SolidRails have solid hooks. So if you see a name of a hook, it generally relates to the name of the rail family it belongs to. We do have one type of hook that can be used for both, but generally speaking, if you have a SolidRail, solid hook. And the difference between the fixation, I think, is quite easy to show here. So we have a solid hook, and the main part of the hook is flat. Our SingleRail, sorry, our SolidRail can then sit on top with the a T-bolt. So all our rails have like a T-bolt, which is able to fix. The rail sort of slides in a little bit, and you can just tighten from the bottom. So I've just tightened that with my finger, but that sits there quite nicely. Excuse me, the difference there with our single hook is that there is a little foot or a kicker on the hook, and this allows for fixation on the side, and you can effectively come through from here, and the process is much the same. So that's perfect. So That sounds quite simple, I hope, that the single hook and the single rail. Where it gets a little more complex is that there are many different types of single hooks and there are many different types of solid hooks. And that can be a little bit daunting to start off with. And the reason for this is that there are many different types of tiles on roofs. And so we're here in Germany, we have quite a few different types, but we also sell products overseas. And when you look at the international market for tiles, there are many different sizes, depths, materials, and our range has sort of been developed to accommodate for the majority of tiles. And then this has led to quite a few quite a few roof hooks, sorry. So unfortunately, there is not just one roof hook for everything, which would be really nice, but then we wouldn't be here today. So I showed you before the solid hook. Excuse the noise.
Byron.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Sure.
Donald Barnett is asking if there is any difference in the strength between the single rail and the solid rail. I guess that's what he's asking. He was only writing single and solid, so I'm not sure if he's talking about the hooks or the rails, but you probably can show us both or explain both. Yes.
So an answer is yes and yes between the hooks and the rails. So generally, the solid rail and the single rail that I showed you before, they are of similar strength. But we do have a range of rails. So before I showed you these two, and the strength of these two are relatively comparable. However, if you need a stronger rail, then there is more, it's probably a different one to compare. We have a range of rails that have the same channel up on the top and the same fixing capability on the bottom. However, they're a lot thicker. So here I have a solid rail Alpine. And as the name suggests, this could be good for the Alps, where there's a lot of snow or a lot of wind load. And so you can run this over like a longer span as well between two hooks. And we have this in one that's a little in between the solid rail light and the solid rail Alpine, but we also have similar ones with the single rail. So just for a comparison of the single rail, we have a single rail 63 here. And so this is, you see it's not as thick, but it also has an extra support bracket or support angle down here. And there is an added advantage. Sometimes you may want a little bit more height away from the roof, and the single rail 63 or the single rail 50, which is a middle between these two, could be used for that. In terms of the roof hooks, we also have a similar idea. So before I showed you the single hook, so that is for the single rail system, and it's made out of aluminium, and we can compare that with a hook that is a similar profile, but a lot thicker. And so in my left hand, which I don't know, your right perhaps, is the solid rail, the single hook Alpine. And you can see that this is a lot thicker, and it's a little bit larger as well. So this could be used for slightly larger tiles, but the main purpose would be if you have much higher loads because the material is much thicker. An interesting point about the two hooks though, they have the same fixation on both ends. So here we have a little plate that we can slide into. So both of them fit in the same plate. And you see there that the distance between where it would connect to the roof and the rail is the same as well.
Thank you, Karen.
So I hope that answered the question.
I guess so. If not, someone can still ask more questions about it. But there is another interesting question, which is quite interesting for everyone. Trevor is asking, are these to be fitted during roof construction? Seems difficult to add after.
That is a very good question, and it would be useful if they were installed during a roof construction, but for almost all sales that we have and projects we have, the roof is already there. And I actually have a bit of a PowerPoint, or on my PowerPoint have some information about this, which could be a good time to show it. So on the left here is one of the hooks we have. So this is a CrossHook 2, but if I would hopefully get you all to focus on the photo on the right. So this is the first photo and some in the construction, and then on the next slide, some more will come. So you can see that the tiles have been here, and the process is effectively take one tile away, and then a little bit of processing will have to be done on the existing tile. So here there's a little bit of this would be a clay tile, and the tile has been chipped away a little bit, so to allow for the roof hook to sit there. So yes, it is a little bit time consuming, and it can be quite difficult because one roof tile has to be removed. Work has to be done on both the tile that is taken away and also the tile below. Not in all cases, but in most cases, the tile is then put back. So that process can be quite long, and you're right, it would be easier if it was done during the installation process. But generally speaking, people are looking to put solar on existing houses, especially with tile roofs, and that is the process of taking the tile off, digging away and putting it back. So here we have the CrossHook 3, which I haven't introduced yet, but we will do so shortly. And you can see that the system is a single rail system because the fixation is being done from the top. If it was a solid rail system, the work would have to be done underneath. And then on the right, this is just all lined up, and then the final product. So this system is using like cross bracing. So one set of rails in parallel with the length of the module, and then one set of rails will run perpendicular. That's what we want.
Okay, thanks for that, Karen. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Now, the picture that we just saw was with a clay tile, and a clay tile is a little bit more malleable than a concrete tile, and so we can use that that aluminium clamp or aluminium hook that we had before. Most of our SolidHook systems are actually made of stainless steel, and we can use these with the with concrete tiles because they're a little bit thinner, and the concrete tiles are a little bit harder to cut away without damaging. So not all the time, but generally speaking, the SolidRail hooks are made out of stainless steel, and the SingleRail hooks are made out of aluminium. But sorry, just to go back to this hook now, we will have a look at it. So this is one of the earlier hooks in the K2 range. It's the distances are all fixed. So the distance underneath the tile where the batten sits, this hook is only suitable for a certain range of tiles. It's very strong, so this one is quite a thick stainless steel, quite very thick and very strong. This comes in quite a few different ranges. So there is the height between the bracket and the roof differs, the height in here differs, and there's also certain hooks with different lengths. So this is determining which one it is very important that you know which tile you have. Perhaps if you have many projects that have many different tiles, then the option might be to have one of our other hooks that is a vario or vario. And the difference between this is that there is part of the hook is variable, hence the name. So here I have a SolidHook 1, a vario 1, and there's one position that can change. So this is also stainless steel, and the height underneath the bracket is fixed. However, if you have different heights of tiles or different thicknesses of tiles, this can be used to bring it closer or raise it up. Also very suitable if you have quite an old roof, because the sometimes the roof rises and dips a bit, and you can use certain ones at certain heights and then certain ones at other heights. So we then have a Vario 2, and this has, as the name suggests, 2 positions of variability. So just like the Vario 1, this is a little too firm for my fingers, but up here to determine the bracket height, but also the height underneath the bracket can be changed. So this would obviously be tightened a lot more firmly than what I can. But so this is sort of some of the options that we have for the solid hooks and the SolidRail. And then I showed you this one earlier, but the SingleHook has a few different features. So instead of having a fixed base plate, there is a little bit of movement available here. So if perhaps the batten sits where my hand is here, it could be attached to the batten here, the base plate, and then the roof hook could sit a little bit to the right, or perhaps a little bit to the left. And you might want to vary this a little bit for the different tiles that are there. So perhaps the tiles don't match evenly with the battens, and so you need to like a little more wiggle room effectively, which can be very useful. Notice this actually doesn't have any fixation. However, just through the friction of the channel where it slides, there's very limited movement. So this is, and if you imagine then the weight of the system that is on top of this, is not going anywhere. So we've very briefly gone through some of the solid hooks and some of the single hook options, but then we also have a family of hooks that are not necessarily for both, or there are parts of them that they can be used for both. So this is the CrossHook 4. This one is the CrossHook 4 set. And then we also have a CrossHook 3 Plus. So there is quite a few different names for this. CrossHook 3, CrossHook 3 Plus, CrossHook 4, CrossHook 4 Plus. And they've all got a little bit of code to them. And once you get your head around them, it's actually quite easy. So the 3 in either system, the 3S or the 4 or the 3S Plus, refers to the number of positions that can be fixed. So the base plate is very similar to the one we just saw, but instead of just having one channel, it has 3 possible heights. So we could either put it in the top one, or in the middle one, and then this can be tightened here. So there's a little bit more stability with this than there is with the other base plate, but a similar process. I can hold that and it's not moving. So the 4, an example, for example, now we have just added a 4th adjusting point. So now we still have the 3 possible heights here, and this refers to the height under the bracket, but now we have a 4th height. So perhaps you have quite thick tiles, or quite thin tiles, and this can be fixed to a certain to the height you want. You also notice there's a little bit difference between the clamping on top. So here we have the CrossHook 4 set. And so the set refers to the fact that it has a climber, and this screw is well, attaching the climber. And so this will be used for the single rail, which I'm just trying to grab. And so this clamping system is a little bit different to how I showed you before with the T-bolt, but very sturdy as well. So the climber here, you just have to ensure this is good. Yeah.
We do have another question.
Okay.
There are so many questions. Just 1 second. I need to find it first again. So the question was about what is the minimum rafter width you can recommend to install? First of all, for tile roof hooks, and then second, which is not the topic today, but for anchor bolts of 10 or 12 millimeters. So let's start with the first one. What's the minimum rafter width for tile roof hooks?
The width of the
rafter.
Oh, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but we do have this preset into our software. So I'm sure you'll be able to answer this question later on.
Sure, we will do this later for the roof hooks, but we can definitely answer the questions for the anchor bolts of 10 or 12 millimeters, and it's 5 times the diameter of the actual fastener. So this is pretty much the answer for this question.
Okay, yeah, and hanger bolts, as you say, or anchor bolts?
Hanger bolts, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking something totally different.
Yeah, anchor bolts. That's what he was writing, but not a big deal. We know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for pretty much for everyone to know. It's 5 times the diameter if you have hanger bolts.
Yeah, and I believe we'll be doing a hanger bolt webinar in 3 to 4 weeks as well. So if you've signed up for emails about webinars, that will come out in the next fortnight, I imagine, the notification for that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Was there any other ones that we could answer here, or?
Not as I see now. There are many questions, but nothing which fits right in right now. So you can continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, so here the fixation is a little bit different to how we saw before. Before we had a T-bolt that slid into this channel, and here we have a climber, or a clamper that will hold it just as firmly. So the setup is a little bit different, but the system is very much the same. The CrossHook Plus, and so CrossHook, we just saw the CrossHook set. Now we're looking at the CrossHook Plus. So this is the CrossHook 3S. 3 because it only has 3, doesn't have the point here. And the plus refers to the elongated hole here. And so this is suitable for our SolidRail, in which case sorry, I've just lost my SolidRail. We fix in much the same method as before. So we are using a T-bolt, and that can slide in. And so there is a little bit of movement possible, and so if the hook position is not quite in line to where you needed it at the time, however you have already fixed it, there is a little bit of movement allowable here. And so the rail will just sit a little bit on one side or a little bit on the other side. That's perfectly fine. And then probably the other one in the CrossHook family is the CrossHook 4SL. And this is where it gets a little bit confusing because now we have lots of names, but we have the 3 points here, as we do with all the other systems. One here for the fourth, and the L refers to a long hole here. So this movement, the length wise here allows for some movement in this direction rather than in this direction. I think that's most of what we have for the hooks and the rail. So if there was no other questions in regarding some of the physical product right now, Roman, I'm going to pass over to you.
Okay. There's one more which we might, which could fit in right now. Yep. It's about if you can place, if you place the panels in landscape position, can I avoid to have double layers with, for example, cross hooks to work directly? That's what his question was. Is there a hook which works directly, or is it even possible to avoid double layers, or do we have to do double layers? Can you talk about this, please?
So double layers is something that we trying to avoid as much as possible, but sometimes it's inevitable that you have to use it. However, I believe we can, because we have a hook somewhere. I think with the difference between the CrossHook 4, the CrossHook 4S Plus, which I do have, and the CrossHook the CrossHook 4SL and the CrossHook 4 is a slightly different product. However, the ability is to change. So the CrossHook 4S Plus, as I said, has the we can put the rails in this direction, and for the CrossHook 4SL, we can put the rails in this direction. And so, depending on the layout that you want and the direction of the battens and the rafters, you should be able to form a single rail system for almost any layout.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, obviously, as everyone knows, it's up to the rafter, the distance, and all that. But also, you're able sometimes to pretty much clamp on the short side of the module, but then you have to be sure that the manufacturer of the modules and the panels, if they agree to this, but usually they don't. So if we need to have a double layer, it's probably best to do it this way as well. Otherwise, it's usually a special construction, and yeah, not the easiest way.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Karen, for this.
Oh, you're welcome. Looking forward to the what we find out online.
Okay, so shall we start then?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, I'm gonna start sharing my screen now. And how does it work again? There we go. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen now. Is this right? Can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, perfect. All right, so all I did pretty much right now is I start up on our website, which has a new design. Maybe you knew the old one, maybe you haven't, but this is our new design, and makes it more easy to find everything. We are pretending to plan a roof now, and we don't know exactly which system we want to use. So first of all, what we can do, it's not obviously, if you know our systems, it's not very important, but if you don't know our systems, then it might be interesting for you to see the matrix, which I'm going to show you now, where you can find out which is the best fitting roof hook for your project at the moment. So first of all, this is our website. This is where you can change the language. We're switching it up to English now, and then start on with our product first. We go into the button product, and then obviously the tile roofing. Then the next page is going to be opened, and you see we are in tile roof. And here, if we already know the system, we can choose between SingleRail, SolidRail, and insertion system. But now we are still fully open. Which system do we want to use? We have to find out first. So here's the system catalog, which you can find our parts, but we want to go to see the downloads. And here, once you find the download button, you see matrix for the roof hooks for tiles. So once we're here, we can open the English version, and then it's quite easy explained. So for example, you have in the first column, you have the roof hook, the roof tile type. So first one is the clay tile, which you can see the different clay tiles, different, different, the flat ones, the corrugated ones, like long corrugated, the short ones, which is up here, for example, and then just completely flat ones like those ones. Then also you have some reference photos from concrete tiles, which you can see right here, also with a little wave on it, or completely flat, but still a different tile than the clay tile. And then we also have the plain tiles, for example, those ones with different shapes, as you see on the second column right here. There are some references where you can, if you don't know what kind of tile you have and you don't have a data sheet for it, then there are some points where you can make it out of if it's a clay tile or a concrete tile. For example, those, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, those little parts up here where you can have, where you have the little dip inside where you can stuck them in between, as you see it here. This is usually just made for the clay tiles, and then we have this only on one side, usually on the left-hand side, for the concrete tiles. Then the different shapes for the plain tiles, which you can see here. This is also like a whole different tile. Then the third column is the processing, how you prepare your tile for the different roof hooks. And as you see, it's written here, processing of the pricks at the lower and the upper edge is always necessary. So usually there's no project where you don't have to use the angle grinder and process some of the tiles. So don't worry, this usually works out because also the clay tiles are a bit thicker than other tiles. And so it usually works out. We have great reference photos, and Kyron was already showing one before in his PowerPoint presentation. So then what we're going to do now is here at the fourth column, we see the compatible roof hooks, and it's actually divided between two parts, the SingleRail system, which you have here, the little sign for the SingleRail. You see the fixation is on the side, and you have the SolidRail system where you fix it on the bottom with the T-bolt. And then obviously for the SolidRail system, we are using the SolidHook, different solid hooks, the pan, then the SolidHook Vario and the SolidHook Vario 2. And for the SingleRails, for example, we have the SingleHook 1.1 or the SingleHook Vario. That's what Karen was already showing on the parts in the camera. So this is just where you can find which hook is fitting for which system, and also for which tile you are using or you are having on your project roof. So once you figure out, okay, this is what I have. Let's say we have a clay tile at the moment, and we are planning on using the SolidRail system. So we have this defined. We are trying to start now to plan our project. And for the planning, I'm just going back to our website, because we have a direct link on our website to our tool, our planning tool, K2 Base. So once I click there, I will be forwarded directly to K2 Base. I'm already signed in. Maybe some of you haven't used it yet, so for you it might be a bit fast, but there is always help on the side because you can see tutorials over here. And if you haven't used Not Ever Base before, then you're good to go to YouTube, have a look at those little tutorials. They're just between 3 and 5 minutes. Doesn't take much time and it's very easy explained. Also in different languages. So not just German, it's in English and I think in French as well, or in Italian. But yeah, you just have a look. There are many, many videos and they're quite helpful for the beginners. So let's just start. I'm gonna switch the language to English and start planning our project. So we have a new project and I will be planning on our headquarter in Renningen. So this is the Industriestraße. Renningen. Here we go. This is the site, as you see, the satellite view. This is our headquarter and we just call it webinar English. There are more spots you can fill in, like for example, which customer you're having or the contact and many more stuff which you can fill in, which is not really necessary right now. Always important to save in between. That's what I at least do. I save in between every step going forward until we add up to the summary. But like there are many, many times when you have trouble with the internet connection or you get a phone call and you get distracted by something and you just change the website and everything is gone. That's why I'm a big fan of saving in between, just as a little recommendation from my side. Okay, so we are planning now. Let's say we are planning one of those roofs. So we continue here to the next one. This is a roof and here we can choose in between the satellite image. So then we have to have the satellite image in between this red square, or if we have a house or a building which is not built yet, then we can either just draw it somewhere in the green or on another roof, which is not very important, or we just use the empty page to draw the roof. But here we are just pretending we want to plan it on one of those roofs. So it's in the red square, and I'm going to add the roof now. We are planning a gable roof, which is rectangular, and we are using tiles. So then we add the roof. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, draw with one click, second click, and then I draw it up this way. Then first of all, before we start typing all this information in, I like to change to the 2D view, and usually we have the measurements on, then we can just define our roof size directly, which let's just say it's 19 meters long and for example, 7 meters high. So this is our direct roof size now. Our building height, let's just say it's 8 meters and the roof pitch is 35. And as you see, I typed in 35 degrees and I did define the roof size before. So this changed up now up to the degrees, the roof pitch. So I have to change this back to 7. And now most important is the rafter spacing. We're going to 0.65, just as an example. And the rafter width is, let's say, 100. Obviously, it's always, you have to double check for your project. You have to talk to your customer and type in the right measurements and the right information in here.
Hey, Roman.
Yes.
We have. I just thought we could touch on the rafter width in this point. So what would happen, for example, if you put the rafter width at 5 millimeters?
5 millimeters?
Yeah.
Let's just
not the spacing, sorry, the rafter width.
Oh, sorry.
The one below.
The rafter width. Okay, just let's say 5 millimeters. So the minimum of the rafter width for the question before is 40.
Yeah,
40
and I think that's a pretty cool thing to show on base as well, because if there is something that is our systems are not suitable for, we are then able to preset the minimum requirements within base, and so the final report at the end will have, you will be ensured that the minimal requirements are met.
That's right. And that was the answer for the question before. Thanks, Karen, for reminding me. But let's just change it back to 100. So we'll keep it that way, which is a regular size. And here, if you have the edge rafter, the first and the last one, you can choose and you can move them more in and out if you like to, but then you have to tick this box. We don't do this right now because we want to keep going. Okay, so here you could draw a obstruction, which is, for example, a chimney or something. Let's just draw one right now. Sorry, the rectangular one. Hey, we add one here, which is, now we want to define the size. You just click on the size number and then you, oh, 12 is a bit big. And so we have 1.2 over here. And we can even define the right position on the roof while clicking on this button to show the dimensions for the edge distance. And here we go. We can just choose, let's say it's 3 meters away from here and 1.2 meters from, why is it always, sorry for this. So 1.2 meters. So now we have an obstruction here, and you will see what happens once we draw the roof, once we draw the module field on it. So we are on the next button, which is design. Here we have to use a module first. We can use a user-defined module where you can type in the size and the width and the length and everything of the module. Or we have a big database where you can find pretty much all the modules which are on the market now. And those are the ones like on the very top are the ones you're using mostly. So I'm just going for this one right now. That's just an example, but there are many, many more in the database. So we have the modules and the size and the length, everything is already in the system, which makes it quite easy. And now we start.
Roman, we have a very good comment actually. You didn't save on the last movement. You should always save your project, remember?
Sorry, again?
You did not save on your last between the roof and the design.
I did, didn't I? Okay, well, again, I'll move back to the roof and then I draw the obstruction, and then there's another part which we can write a remark or comment or something. For example, let's say the values are assumed or something like this. That's the remark which is written in the report as well, so the end customer can see it as well. And then we continue and we are moving to the design. Is this what you were asking, Karen?
No, I was making a quip about you not saving, and you should always save.
That's right. Sorry for this, but you're right to remind me. Okay, so saving and then moving to the next one. So here we are in this position where we might be moving back to the matrix again. We did decide before that we want to use now the SolidRail system with a SolidHook because we have clay tile roofing. So we are going from here, we are going to use the SolidRail and we are drawing a module array in Portrait. And then it's very easy and simple, just one click, move the mouse and another click and there will be enough modules which you want. Then also here, if you click on the ruler, it shows you the amount of modules you're having. So horizontally speaking, it's like 15 right now. We can even add more by like clicking the mouse, holding it and moving left and right. So we get more up here. So we have 16 now, or which doesn't fit right now on this roof, but you can also go more to the top and the bottom. Then you can also move the whole module array, the whole field inside the roof. And as you see, you did draw the obstruction on one position, and every time you're moving the module array, the modules will be erased, which are right in the way. So in this way now, we have 2 modules less. And if I move it more this direction, we have those 2 modules erased. I hope this is clear so far. So now we continue. We could do a thermal gap in here, if you like the vertically ones, by clicking on one of the red lines, turns yellow, and you can just, for example, click a thermal gap. And then obviously we have the other one, the horizontal one here as well. But we don't do this right now. We continue that we get to the loads. In Germany, many addresses are implemented, pretty much all of Germany. All you have to do is the terrain category, but that depends on the company, on the country you're planning in. So it's not always that everything is implemented. Sometimes you have to type in, for example, the wind load or the snow load by hand manually. What we're gonna do now is just change the terrain category to 3 because we're in a city, and continue. And then, Karen, I'm gonna save because I did a lot of planning already and I don't wanna lose this. So I did the saving now, and we are on the next step, which is the results. Any questions for now? Or is everything clear so far?
I'm just having a quick look. We did have one question. We will jump back a little bit, but could you just show the difference between the different websites in terms of language, but also
the
country?
Website?
Yeah, in terms of language and also country, just because English is EN, but also USA is also in English. And so it can be a little bit confusing if you're on the German English website or the US English website.
So you are asking where I can change the language and the website?
Yeah, I'll just show that there's a little bit difference.
Pretty much over here on the top right, where you can, for example, switch to the Mexican website, the US website, or the Italian. Let's just switch to the Italian for now. Then it's not just the language which is changing, it's also the website itself.
Yeah.
This is, I hope
that was
the question. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But then we are moving back to English now. And well, we're not planning inside the website, but I guess everything is clear now. So we're going back to K2 base, and we are on the result page right now. And as you see, we have a beautiful module array on the roof, and you can see different colors of the roof, which is the area, different roof areas where you have different forces coming onto the modules and the fastener. So the yellow one is just usually the side area. Then we have the higher load area, which is the corner usually, which is red, and then the center area, which is white in here. But for now, we see we have fastener on every rafter. We can double check this here. We can turn in the substruction, which are rafter here on the tile roof. And I do hide the modules for now to make you see everything better and clearer. So we have the rail, which is in blue, the fastener in dark gray, and then the rafter themselves in like a bright gray. And we see we have now the SolidHook Vario 2, which we were planning on here with the matrix, the Vario 2, which is not perfect for this roof probably. Why is it not perfect? Because we see we have a rafter distance of 0.65, which is not very much, but we still need on every rafter a roof hook. So in total, we are moving to the summary page. I will save just in case. But in total, we are using 156 roof hooks right now, which is not the best option. Obviously, we are trying to use less, which is getting everything cheaper. And this is a good example. If I'm changing now from the SolidRail system with the SolidHook to our SingleRail system, you will see the difference. So we are moving backwards to design and moving to SingleRail. It's just loading, and we are going back to the results. And now you see we are using way less roof hooks. So it's just every second rafter, and obviously sometimes it's double because then it switches off. But in total, we are using 86 now instead of 156, or I don't remember the right amount, but something like this is nearly half the amount. And even if the CrossHook, which is made out of aluminum, is a bit more expensive, a little bit more pricey, not much, but a little bit, but then you need half the amount, half the quantity, then you still get more cheaper, way more cheaper on the whole project. Another thing, another cool detail which you can use on our planning software is now we have the rails, which I was showing before in blue. If you click on those rails, it's going to show you the exact length of the rail and how you are or how it is planned with the 3.30 m rail, like 3 times, and then 3.6 m. If, for example, you have 8 modules and 8 modules in a row, and then you have, like, for example, you have the rail length of 8.80 m, then you obviously are better up to use the 4.40 m rail or the 5.50 m. Depends on if you have a warehouse, if you are keeping us on stock or not. If you just order project-wise, then it's always best to just click on or tick most of the boxes, because then you're more open. Like me now, I did click 3 of them on, and now we have 2 times 4.40 m and 1 4.16 m. So this would be the best option. Another good part is if you click on the module, which is also turning red, which is clicked on, you see the loads on the modules and the ultimate limit state, and the loads on the modules in the serviceability. This is quite important on very high snow load areas, because then you decide if it's just way too much weight on the module or not. Here is the last feature I'm going to show you. There you can see the utilization of the fastener, for example, which is 72.99% right now, and we are still on every second rafter. So this is the way you can double check if it's better to use, for example, a thicker rail and a better and stronger fastener, or if the fastener is not strong enough to go on every second rafter, and we are using the thinner rail, which is also a bit cheaper then, obviously. So I think there are no more questions.
Oh, we had one, Roman, which I think you would be very easy for you to show. I think you put a chimney in as an obstruction.
Yes.
What would happen if that chimney sort of caused some shading, or maybe we had a minimum requirement of around it? Is there any way we could set that up?
Of course, yeah. So if you have the exact size of the chimney, but you say, okay, I want at least ½ a meter around the chimney, nothing, then you are going back to the page of roof, and you're going here to the obstruction. So we are having this one right now. So what we can type in is the minimum edge distance, for example, like let's say ½ a meter, so 0.5. And it's actually shown in red, which is 0.5 meter all around the, let's call it chimney now, or just an obstruction, whatever it is. And also about the shading, we have, for example, a obstruction height. And let's also say it's half, or let's say, to make it clear, 1.5 meter high. And then we can show the shading. You type in the date, and then the time and the end time, and that's actually showing the shading. So here, for example, if you don't want the edge distance, then it doesn't still make sense to use this module, because it's right in the shading. Okay. Great features you can, yeah, great features. It's just about playing around. And as I said before, for those who haven't planned in K2 Base yet, it's always helpful to use tutorials. And as I said before, they are not very long, just 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes in different languages, and you can always learn something out of it. One more thing at the very end. At the summary, you can generate a report, which I'm going to do right now. And with this report, this is pretty much your static report, which you can send to onto the construction site, because here everything is listed quite clear. For example, here we have the project name and the author, the date, and then all the project data written on the first page, or it's the second page actually. Then also which module you were using, what's the weight of the module and the size. And then we are coming, if you're scrolling more down, we're coming to the module area. You see more about the roof and also the size of the rails, how you're going to cut them. At the very end, you see what's the maximum cantilever, for example, in this table, the maximum values for like loads on the modules and the utilization results for the fastener in this case. So yeah, I'm going to refer to the cantilever because that's a question which comes up quite often. So in this table, if you see, this is the Al max, for example. It's written the maximum cantilever length. And so even if you have less written in this document and you are asking, for example, I'm going to zoom in, this one is a bit less, but you want to move it a bit more inside here, then you have everything written and can read it out of this table here. So I hope everything was clear so far, or are there more questions?
At the moment, there was no other questions, or there was a couple that we can get to, but we would like to have a bit of a question round now. So if anyone has some questions that weren't exactly answered, or you've come up, like they've come to you while we've just been chatting here, please put your hand up and we'll.
So Karen. You can just raise your hands now and
Hi. There's a, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it's about the shading. There's already a set interval for shading. It's from 10 to 16 in the afternoon.
Yes.
How does this set work? Is it a standard all-time agreed as an interval, or we can change it from? It's clear that we can change it from 9 o'clock to 16 or 9 o'clock to 18 o'clock. What are the reasons for which is already set to 10, from 10 to 16?
That's just, Karen, you want to answer? Sorry. You need to turn on the microphone again. We can't hear you right now.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, so you'll notice that it was preset to the 21st of December as well. So this is the shortest time of daylight in the Northern Hemisphere. And so the hours between 10 and 4 are the time when effectively the most sun, or perhaps the only sun, will be there. So that's preset based on Germany. I don't know if it will change for different countries with their different times. I believe not, but it might. But as you said, you are able to change this. So perhaps you want to know the shading in July, you would also have to find out the times of the sun, or how much time there is sunlight, and preset that. The point for the 21st of December is that is when the shadows will be the longest. And so the maximum area of ground will have shade. But you can change it for whatever you want.
Yeah, one more thing is that I've noticed when changing the hours on the same project, that the shadows are kind of a bit tricky. I mean, if I open the project with, I have some examples. I have a project, and I placed up, I let the shadow between 10 and 16, and then I moved the day to 21st of December, let's say. And that will mean when I put the day, when I set the day 21st of December, the shade would look somehow will have some coverage. And then if I switch from let's say 9 to 16, the shade will have, of course, another shape. But then when I can come back to 10 to 16, the shade will have other area than the original 10 to 16 was. It's pretty strange.
And so that is on a different day, are you talking about, or back to the 21st?
No, same day. You have same day. You move. You take you place a bit with the hours, and then when you return to the original 10 to 16, you sometimes you have another shape of the shade.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm sorry, I don't have an exact answer for that now. But
yeah,
next
I bet.
time
But
it happens, could you take a few screenshots and
I will.
send that file along with the base file that you're working on to our base support, and we'll happily look into it.
Thank you.
No, thanks for the question. Appreciate it.
The next one would be Craig Ross.
Greg, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear us, sorry?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm just wondering how many buildings can you model at the one given time? Is there a limit on this? How many roof spaces can you model at once?
How many roofs in total?
Yeah. So like in theory,
I mean, can you do like several at once? Yeah.
Are you talking about roofs specifically, or module fields on the roof?
Different buildings within the one sort of vicinity.
Okay, so in the red square that Roman had before, in theory, you could have as many that fit in there. So what we have found though is any roofs, there's sort of more than 3 or 4, especially if they're quite large, the software will slow down a little bit, and it will take a little more time to go between the roof and the module or the results page that Roman displayed. So I'd probably recommend no more than 3 or 4, but you could add more, yeah.
But they really depends on the size. So if it's like a very small roof like this one just now, which I represented, that you can do at least like 5, 6, 7 roofs of this size. Karen is talking about very big roofs.
Okay, right. Yeah, I understand. One more thing, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
What's the most standard size of rail that we would use for installations? The most commonly used rail and hook for both single rail and obviously the solid rail.
Well, it's a little bit different for each country, to be honest.
So it does vary quite a lot.
Yeah, each country has different tiles as the main tile, and that has the main impact on what sort of hook we can use and what sort of rail can also be used. So in Switzerland, for example, Roman, I know you work there often, there's a lot more snow, and so we need a lot stronger material. However, I work in Germany a little bit on some of the projects we have, and the material is a lot, it doesn't need to be as strong. So it does depend on country to country and region to region.
That's very true. And also it's up to, like I explained before, if you would like to save some material and you would like to go to every second rafter, then obviously you need stronger roof hooks, for example, than if you go on every rafter. and the stronger roof hooks, they have more material and therefore they're a bit more expensive, but then in total, it might be a bit cheaper. So it's always up to the project. And as Karen said, for me, like for example, I work for Switzerland and we have like very high snow loads. And if you don't have a roof tilt, like which is very steep, let's say 20 or 15 degrees, just like that. And obviously you need to have more stable roof hooks than if you have them in Germany for a 15, 20 degrees roof.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm assuming that this type of system would be compatible with trapezoidal roof types.
Similar, we have a different fixation method and a different rail. So actually it's probably quite a little bit different, but the clamping, which we didn't really discuss today, is similar. But then for trapezoidal roofs, we fix in a different way, and we actually don't, in many cases, drill into the batten. We're able to just attach to the trapezoidal sheet metal.
But we are talking about this soon. We will be having more webinars coming up. So yeah, maybe now it's the time to type into the chat where you can sign in for the next webinars that will be coming up soon. This, as Karen mentioned before, it's a series on every week now. Yeah,
and if you miss one, I believe they'll be uploaded to YouTube. And then we will also be reoccurring the topics every 5 to 6 weeks as well. So there's opportunity there to catch up on stuff that you may have missed if you miss one.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Thanks very much. Do you have any other questions, Dylan?
Is there another hand?
From Chiga.
Vincent, maybe?
Vincent, 1 second. Yeah, Vincent, I activate Vincent's microphone.
It's okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yes, hello. Hello. First of all, we came very late because we are in Senegal, and with the jet lag, we didn't follow correctly. But I had a question that is a little bit out of the presentation today. We are doing car park, and the question was to know if K2 is already working on car park fixation system.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We are. So it is currently with our research and development team, and we're working on the final parts of the design. I'm not sure if it will be late this year or perhaps next year, but we are looking at roofing for carports. Yeah.
That's okay then.
Yes.
Thank you. But what I can say is that I don't know if I can put my email so that based on the progress to inform us accordingly.
Okay, so a new topic like this or a new product will definitely be released in our newsletters. So the best way to keep up to date for that would be to sign up for the newsletters.
Oh, yes. Yeah, but this is already the case.
You are? Okay. Then you should receive it as soon as we're ready to release.
When they want to work on carports, they could use trapezoidal sheet metal, and then they can use our trapezoidal.
Yeah. And so another option that one of my colleagues here has suggested that if the carport is made out of sheet metal, or carport could be made out of sheet metal, then we could run a speed rail over the top, which would be our trapezoidal, which we will cover in our trapezoidal webinar in the coming weeks.
That's great. Excellent.
Thanks for your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okie dokie. I think we have everything.
Okay, so are there more questions? Please raise your hands if you have any more questions.
Again.
Sorry, Craig, did we talk to you before? I don't think we did.
No, this is the first time.
Oh, okay, sorry, we missed you, but your accent sounds familiar. So
No, sorry, I've already asked a question. Sorry.
Ah.
Sorry. Misunderstood.
Okay, well, thank you very much. As there doesn't seem to be too many more hands raised, we'll begin to wrap up. We'll still be here for a couple of minutes to answer some.
There's one more, as I see now. Sorry for interrupting, Karen.
Yeah, no worries.
Nicholas, maybe you want to ask your question? You need to unmute your microphone.
Hello, are you listening to me?
Hello,
Hello, yes.
Yeah, my question is, you have a distributor in Argentina?
We have in Argentina, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. We have a K2 Brazil, and that would be the best point of contact. So on the website that Roman showed earlier, you should be able to pan through these countries and get to the Brazil website from there. And from there, all the contact details, and they'll have a lot more information than we do, because we mainly distribute to Europe or throughout Europe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, as I was saying, we will send out an email and the link to the recording of this webinar tomorrow or in the following days.
And also all documents we showed and websites will be included.
Yeah, and so we will also send all the links and the documents of some of the stuff we have discussed. And if you have any questions that are not answered by that, feel free to contact us via email. Is probably the easiest way. All that information can be found on our website. So if there's nothing else, Roman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks everyone for listening. And I hope to see you next week on the next webinar, which is, I think, about flat roof systems. So if you're interested, please sign in. Until then, I would say, see you later. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. We just have, I think we might have one more, which we'll hang around for. So
you'll be hanging around, Karen?
Just for a few more minutes. Yeah, I think we have a question. Okay. Another question just popped up. So we had the question about from Zigo on rectangular roofs. So at the moment, yes, only rectangular roofs are possible, and we're a little bit limited into the rectangular shape of the module field. So in the future, we are looking to have a polygon roof implemented. The sort of first steps are triangular, and I'm not sure if we will kind of go in any other shapes from there. But this would allow then one row of one length and then one row sort of shorter, slightly off put from the one above. So at the moment, that's not possible, but I know our digital team is working on it, and we're looking to have it in later in this year or early next year. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, just one last time. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll be closing the webinar in 30 seconds to a minute. So wish you all the best for the week. And if you are joining us again next week, I look forward to having you. And if not, stay safe and we'll speak again. Ciao.
picture. Browser.
So just
Alex
for
asked for it.
Yeah, so we just had a question in regards to the assembly instructions. And I will just show you where to find that. So we're at our website. We should be at our website. Ah, here we go. And so we can go through either our projects, but generally through the products. We will go to tile roofs. This is just going back over what Roman had said. So the systems, we have the option of the SingleRail and SolidRail. We didn't discuss the insertion system today, but that's another tile roof possibility. So we can scroll down to our, I've gone a little bit too far, I'm sorry. So in this gray section, we have components, references, where we have some photos, and then we have the downloads. And we then have assembly instructions. And so we have assembly instructions for general, for roof hooks, and also for plain tile. So if we know what type of tile, it could be a little more specific.
Just open one.
So this is our plain tile. They have all the equipment that's required, what system they're suitable for, what roof they're suitable for, some tips for installation, and then go through all the parts, the hooks that are there. So we did not discuss this hook today, but the process is very similar for all of our hooks. We have now a second section of instructions. So this is for when it is in landscape and multiple layers are required.
Maybe you just show the standard roof hooks or CrossHook and CrossHook would be interesting. SingleRail system.
In the SingleRail system.
Okay. SolidRail.
Yeah. So just having a look at another one now, we can have a look at the CrossHook. So assembly instructions. And you can see we add our components, we have base components. So all the information you find here will also come from the base report that you've made. Well, here we have another product that we did not discuss today, but it's possible, or it's suitable for when the position of the roof hook does not align with the rafter. There's effectively a long base plate, and that sits between two rafters and allows a little more flexibility of where the hook can be placed. We have information on the drilling location for this. And this drawing now has information on where the tile has to be processed, excuse me. But then also how the rail snaps into the, how the rail is held. Information on how tight the Allen keys have to be, or be tightened. And this is showing a little bit, sorry, this is showing like a SingleHook 1.1 now. So this clamping is a little bit different to what we just saw in the CrossHook. This is using the T-bolt, which we discussed earlier today. And then a different roof hook, which we also didn't discuss, but this uses the clamper. So all the assembly instructions for other products, roof hooks, and any other topics we have can also be found on the website in similar locations. So if you get stuck, it's hopefully easy to find, and that will get you on get the ball rolling. Okay, now this time we are going. Thank you very much if you're still here, or if you're watching later on YouTube. We've had a great time. I hope you guys have too, and we'll be back next week. Looking forward to it. Bye.